expect those guys to be focused on growth and trying to take on new challenges, because those certainly going to be coming at us. Offensively, certainly a little bit more veteran than we have been, and that's good news for us, especially up front. I think we have the potential to be a good offensive football team, but we still have steps to take, not unlike any season probably. And then special teams in a nutshell, we've got our deep snapper back. That's usually not headline worthy, but it's really important. We've got our place kicker and our kicker back, Drew Stevens. And what is new is we lost our punter, Torrey Taylor, who's an outstanding player. We've got a first-year player named Reese Dawkin taking his spot, and that'll be, just an item of interest to see how he develops. The other thing I think of note with the special teams, losing a player, Cooper DeJean, who's an outstanding defensive player, but also a great punt returner. It's something else I think that's impactful for our football team. So, just in a nutshell, the team has done a really nice job. Since January we got started, they've worked well each step of the way, and I think their focus has been good. So we're looking forward to next week getting together and hitting the field next Wednesday. And really, this is what you work for. This is the most important time for a football team. The next month in preparation for the last 4 months. So that's kind of where we're at right now, and I'll open it up for questions.
We got second row on your right side.
Okay.
Hey, Coach. Will Decker from LA Football Network. After disappointing on offense last year, you guys made the decision to hire Tim Lester as your offensive coordinator. What was the hiring process like, and what makes Tim stand out to you as someone that can get the offense back in a good spot?
Yeah, I think a couple of factors there. We haven't been where we want to be offensively for a couple of years. And, as a coach, you have to evaluate things and be realistic. And certainly last year's an easy thing to point out. Our top three, if you had asked anybody last year at this time who are our top three offensive players, they weren't there, basically, when we started conference play. So we paid for that. And, but I thought the guys did a great job of playing with what we had and maneuvering their way through and finding a way to win 10 football games. Going through the search process was interesting. A lot of really good people to visit with. I'd say a small group of good people to visit with, and Tim just really stood out. I think he's a really good fit for us. Whether you talk about his personality, but obviously his offensive background, his expertise. Played quarterback, coached quarterbacks, has been a coordinator, and then had a rare opportunity last year to really almost take a coaching sabbatical, if you will, and worked with the Packers and got great exposure to a lot of people offensively, helped out on the defensive side. So I think he comes with a wealth of knowledge. One thing I do appreciate, he's a former head coach. That wasn't a requisite. But I also, quickly in the conversation, I think he's got a deep appreciation for how football works and how offense can complement defense, special teams. Everybody's going to be working on the same, towards the same end. And so that part's all been good. And he's been on campus now since February, very positive, very energetic, good teacher, just a good people person. So he relates well with the staff, the coaches, all the players, and so far so good.
Hi, Kirk. John Steppe, Cedar Rapids Gazette. Hope you're doing well. Kind of along those lines, what have been kind of your biggest impressions from the kind of Shanahan-style offense that Tim has implemented, and how helpful is that visit up to Green Bay as you kind of get ready to implement this in the fall?
Yeah, every exposure is good, whether it's us implementing it and installing it during spring practice or, watching other people do it at a proficient level. And, every offense has its different styles and whatever, but really to me, success in offense still gets down to execution. The guys up front have to block and the receivers have to block. And then, somebody's got to do a good job of getting the ball where it's supposed to. And in the passing game, it's the same thing. People have to get open. They've got to make tough catches, and quarterback's got to be able to deliver, and it all starts with protection. So it's not like you're inventing anything. It's going to be a little bit different, certainly, and but I think our players really took to it quickly. I went through a similar thing in 1996, I guess it would have been. We moved to Baltimore when Ted Marchibroda took over the offense for us. And my takeaway from that was the players learned a lot faster than I did. I was the only guy that was stumbling on things that were in my memory bank. The players just move on pretty quickly. And it's kind of been that way this way, too. So it's been a good transition. But all that being said, we've got a lot of work to do here the next 4 weeks.
All the way in the back left.
Hey, Kirk. Chad Leistico, Des Moines Register. Cade McNamara seems to be fully recovered from the torn ACL. He says he's 100%. I guess as you go into fall camp, and then you also got Brendan Sullivan here, Big Ten starter. So as you go into fall camp, do you view Cade as your definitive starter, and if so, why?
Well, I do. I mean, we played against him right here on this field a couple of years ago in December and got to see him that entire season on film. So we had great respect and admiration for him as a player, a competitor. Unfortunately, for our fan base and the media, none of you guys have seen him play full speed, thus far in an Iowa uniform. So I'm eager to see him, perform for us this year. Nobody's more eager than he is, and hopefully he's not too eager. The good news regarding the injury, I've told a couple of people already today, back in the 80s, ACL injuries could be unpredictable. No surgery's routine anymore, but fortunately, 30-some years later, the advances in medicine, ACLs, players come back from them all the time without issue, and we anticipate that for Cade. I know he's eager to go, and eager to see Brendan, too, in practice. It'll be fun to work with him. He's been really impressive in the summer program, and a very competitive guy. He's been impressive in a lot of ways, and seems like he's transitioned really well at Iowa City. So, we're eager to see all of our guys out there, but the quarterback position will be something of note for sure.
First row on your right side.
Yep. Coach Lynn Herring, Stay Alive Power 5. How you doing today?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing all right, man. Good to see you again.
Likewise.
So to follow up on what you were talking about with Tim Lester, can you go more in depth on his relationships with the quarterbacks on the roster and the impact that he's had on the offense as a whole in the short amount of time he's been there?
Yeah, it's hard to judge impact because we haven't played anybody yet, but see a lot of positive things. And, not to oversimplify things, but I've been at Iowa now. This is my 35th year coming up. Going back to the 80s, I think one common theme, when we play well up front and we get good quarterback play, we've got a chance to become a good offense. That's kind of been a common denominator. And we haven't had that opportunity the last couple of years. I think we're finally in a position where maybe that is realistic, and we're certainly hopeful we'll know more here in a couple of weeks. But Tim's fit in really well. I mean, he's again, high-energy guy. He's got really, I think, a good grasp of what he wants to do, a good vision of where he wants to go, and he's been very interactive with everybody in the staff in terms of, what do you think, what do you guys see, all those types of things. And to me, that's the quality of a good coach and a good leader, and he's certainly in a leadership role. So his transition's been very, very seamless, and it's been very natural. And again, he's a player, just from my observations, or a coach that players tend to gravitate towards. And then he did play the position. He's coached it for a long time, so he does have a level of expertise with the quarterback spot that's, I'm not saying he's right or wrong with his opinions, but I'm just saying he's firm on what he believes, and he's been pretty successful. So the players have really jumped in full bore with him, and that's what you hope to see with any coach.
On your right side, Coach.
Yep. Coach Adam Jacoby, Hawkeye Beacon. Thanks for your time today. Sticking with the QBs, the depth chart that was just released had McNamara, then Linez, then Sullivan. Would you say that's still a pretty fluid situation, 1 through 3, with the quarterbacks at this point?
Yeah, I'd say everything's fluid right now. Hopefully it won't be in the fall, but right now everything's fluid. And we could have listed Brandon too. He hasn't put a helmet on yet for us. So when we see him on the field, then maybe he'll be in competition with the other 3 guys. But I expect it to be 3 guys competing. And Cade obviously has got more experience than any of them. He's had more demonstrated success. That gives him a huge advantage. But all 3 guys will compete, and it's the same way at every roster spot right now. We don't have anybody that's at, nobody's just entitled to positions. It just doesn't work that way.
On your back left, Coach.
Hi, Kirk. Scott Docterman with The Athletic. Wanted to ask you about tight end Luke Lachey. You've had a good reputation of developing a lot of NFL tight ends. How does he kind of compare and contrast with some of the ones that came before him, and what's his upside this year?
2 things about Luke and Scott. You know him, so this will resonate. He's just one of the nicest people I've ever met. He's unbelievably just a nice human being, a really first-class guy. I think we all suspect and know that he's a really good football player, but I think maybe as impressive as anything I saw was just the way he handled a very disappointing injury last year. he was fully engaged, fully immersed, and did a great job working with the other guys that were playing where he was supposed to be playing. So that's as high a compliment, and that's why he's here right now. The team selected him as one of our leaders, and it's not even close. I mean, he's up there at the top. So he's just a great quality young guy, and he's all about the team. He's an outstanding football player. And one thing, we have had a lot of great tight ends come through our place. You look at a guy like George Kittle, who really has continued to improve, and he's playing at a much higher level, was starting to play at a much higher level at age 25 than he was at 21. And that's what good players do. They just keep getting better. But the one common takeaway, if you look at all the tight ends we've had, they all come in different sizes, speeds, makeups, but they've all found ways to really impact the game. And Luke certainly fits that. He's more of a conventional tight end, can block in line, but also be a real threat in the passing game.
Final question on your left, Coach.
Hey, Coach. Mark Holkin, WeAreSC.com, part of the Locked On USC podcast network as well. Before the bowl season started, you had talked about USC and how they used to play defense. What was the genesis behind that comment? And have you had a chance to talk to Lincoln Riley since then?
I have not. And it was just a takeaway from a bowl game. They played in a couple of years ago. Drive-by scouting, if you will, which is dangerous. But it's a curiosity to me that, because I know they've got good athletes, and we've played them. And, they're a tough football team, at least they were when we played them 5 years ago. So my guess is, I know they've taken some steps, and my guess is they're going to be we don't play them this year, so it's not our concern, but, they're going to be a factor in our conference race. I'll go on a limb, make that bold prediction that they'll be there when it's all said and done.
Coach Ferentz, thank you so much for your time.